I saw this craft. It almost looked like it was interdimensional. It wasn't a physical craft, but it wasn't like it was just like it was clearly there, but it was more or less like
Existing in two spaces.
There's a
kind
force in all of us that science knows nothing about. The force of fear.
Welcome everyone to Induced Fear. I'm your host Oscar, and with me I have Skeezy of Midnight in the Multiverse. New show just started. Why don't you introduce yourself?
all right.
Let everyone know what you do.
So my show, Midnight in the Multiverse, is mostly about well, it's kind of taken a couple different turns. It started as mostly about ETs and ET sightings, and then it's gone into um, different realms. Like I talked about chakras and meditation and stuff like that. And then, of course, it just became difficult, and I love talking about ETs, so I kind of went back to that route.
Well, you like talking about it because the way I got in contact with you was I saw your video on TikTok. You were talking about, I believe, ETs in that video. And I was like, I don't want to hear anymore. I'm just going to try to see if this guy will come on the show and basically explain why is it that you go back to ETs? Like, what's the main reason why that's a big deal for you?
Okay, so from a young age, I've always kind of questioned everything, not knowing necessarily why, but I've always questioned everything. And I've always had this, I guess, belief that we weren't the only ones out there. And so, aliens have always been a myth, and we won't call them aliens. They like to be called ETs because technically, I mean, no, we're aliens to them. So,
Makes sense. Yeah.
so we'll call them ETs. And so I've always had this, this belief, this feeling, knowing that something else was out there. And I kind of just became interested and didn't really look too much into it. Um, and then when I was about, I think when I was about 23 or so, 24 maybe, I saw my first UFO, and that was an interesting night in itself. It was I was in an Uber, and
All right.
earlier in that Uber ride, the Uber driver actually hit someone walking across the street.
Okay.
So
Shit.
started off super interesting.
Yeah.
And so then we keep on going, and then there's this light in the sky, and it has a shape. It's almost like a heart, but each of the like the point is more a little more pointy, but not necessarily a triangular point, but not necessarily rounded like a traditional heart. And the
Yeah.
same thing with the other ends, the two top ends of the heart, I guess you would say. And it was this incredible concentrated amount of light, like almost like it was just a street light, but it didn't emit any rays. It was just the light was just there, and I see it, and I didn't know what it was, and then all of a sudden it just, I mean, it takes off, and then it vanishes. So from my perspective, it shot off like 100 yards, but however high
Yeah.
it was, it probably was miles and miles. So I mean, it zips off, and then it just disappears in a literal flash, like a twinkle in the sky. And so I'm of course curious, but obviously, you know, I know it's a UFO because I mean, what else in the world could ever do that?
Yeah.
And so then I just started getting really interested in it, and obviously that's piqued my interest even more, made me way more curious than I ever had been before because it was basically just a belief, and now it's an actual firsthand experience, knowing it's out there.
Yeah. I get you.
And so then this is where it will actually sound crazy because I've gotten on the video, I've gotten a couple comments of backlash on this. So
Hmm.
one of my videos I talk about ET abductions, and so this happened before my sighting, is where so many abductions you hear about these stories, and they come off as being physical abductions.
Yeah.
So in my experience, and I know this will sound crazy because it sounds crazy to me, um, the abductions are also more of a consciousness or on a like a soul level. And so it can come in the form of a dream, but in reality, if we remember it, it's not a dream, it's a vision or an
Yeah.
experience. if we don't remember it, it's more of a dream. And so this abduction happened, and it's happened 3 times, the exact same thing, the exact same scenario. I've never had any type of other dream where I could actually like move about and like sense everything. And so in this corridor, surrounded by these 3 beings. Just their heads are like balls of light, or at least that's what I saw. I don't know if that's what they actually were, but that's what they allowed me to see. And we're going through this corridor, and it has um, like runway lights on the bottom and on the top, and it's kind of like an octagonal shape. And then we get to this door, which is just lights, and they walk me through, and I'm able to look around and see things, but I'm not able to move the rest of my body. But everything, I can turn my head in all directions. I can see like I normally could. Um, and I feel, no fear, no anxiety, no nerves, just calmness throughout. And we go through this door, and you can imagine it like Men in Black when they zap you with
Oh,
the
to
forget
forget?
stick,
Yeah.
yeah. And then so it kind of go through there, and then you know, then I'm out of it.
Damn.
And so that happened 3 times, and I can understand why people would say I'm lying or this and that, but it's I can't say that it didn't happen because it was more real than things that have actually
Yeah,
happened in my
yeah.
waking life, I guess. And I mean,
I
shoot,
mean, so much so that it left an impact for you to remember. Like, I'm not sure how many years from that first, like, conscious abduction to now. How many years has that been?
so the first one, it probably happened around a decade ago, and then
Okay,
it
so that's what
happened
I
like
mean. Like,
the
yeah,
next year, and then the next year. So that was when, like, when I posted that, people were saying, "Oh, video or it didn't happen." Well, first off, it's a consciousness abduction. How can I take a video? And secondly, it hadn't happened in 7, 8 years.
yeah.
But you're right;
And
it left a huge impact. So,
and was it every time that same kind of calmness feeling, not no real fear?
so the exact same thing. There's no fear, and so in my experience with all and I'm sure we'll obviously get there later, of all the ET crafts I've seen, every single time there is a sense of joy. It's not
Okay.
They are not hostile beings. Anytime you hear that they are hostile beings, you're being lied to. There are there are definitely hostile races out there,
Mm.
but as a whole, as a rule, they are non-hostile, they are friendly, and they live under the universal law of love.
All right. Yeah. See, because I find that like I guess it's good that you've had an experience like that because my experience with having like a ball of light that I saw in the middle of the desert, in the sky in the middle of the desert, me and a group of friends, and it kind of danced around in the sky, um, moving around. Then there were parts where the light would go off and then appear in a different spot, go off, appear over again, and it was like we started to go into the desert more and more. But then at one point, we all felt this sense of dread and then decided, oh, I don't know if we want, like, something doesn't feel right and we're not going to go forward anymore. Like, at the same time, all of us felt same type of fear enough to say, all right, we're stopping here, turn back around. We're getting out of the middle of the desert and going back to the road. Um,
Interesting.
so for you to say that it was like, joy, peaceful, it it's two sides of the spectrum of there are people who are afraid of it, but you're somebody who has experienced something good,
Well,
like
so I
something.
mean, on that, so like we're all energy based, right? So we can
Yeah.
feel each other's energy and vibes, vibrations, and whatnot. So I mean, that could be the same thing. So we could have experienced different races, Like your
Yeah.
race could have a negative energy, so then you felt that. And the races I experienced were more on the positive side, so I would experience and feel the positive energy being
Yeah.
emitted towards me.
Yeah, I just think it's just cool to get the two sides of like of a coin. Like this kind of realm of ETs. There's it's not all going to be scary from what you're experiencing. It's not all going to be this scary experience. You've experienced something good, and many people have experienced good, joyous emotions like during things like that, like you have.
See, because that's actually interesting. I've never actually personally met someone who has had a negative experience, so that's interesting to me
Yeah,
as
that was the
well.
only one. It was one time. It was one time. Another time was seeing a light driving again in the middle of the desert, and then that light coming from the sky and coming straight towards my car to where I felt the need to swerve. And then when I looked behind me, the light was just gone. Um, so I wouldn't say that was like necessarily negative in any way, really. It was just an experience that
Well,
I
I mean,
had.
that's, close proximity though too, so it
Yeah,
could just I mean, that'll freak you out if it's
yeah,
getting too close. Because if I mean, how do
yeah,
you react if something's just zooming at you when you're in a car?
yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. But just those ones. Nothing. Nothing after that, I believe. So
No, so it is interesting though because, so I had seen to the point, um, not this past October, but the previous October, so 2022, I had seen 6 different instances of UFOs.
wow.
One of them was like 3 lights on the corner of a triangle,
Yeah,
and it was, like, here, and then third location, and then it was, zipped off, it was gone.
yeah,
So that was one. I saw that with my girlfriend at the time, and she saw it too, so, that's always another one when you see it with someone else to
yeah.
verify
Exactly.
that you're not crazy,
Yeah.
right? Um,
I'm
and
not the only one
then
who saw that. You had to see it too. Like,
yeah, exactly, right?
yeah,
So there were a couple other instances, but then October of 2022 is when my friend came to me. I won't say his name just because I don't know if he would approve.
yeah.
Um, so he came to me and he brought up the findings of Dr. Stephen Greer.
All right.
And so I'm very, very appreciative of him. And I talk very highly of Stephen Greer because he kind of set all of this in motion with his information. And so he comes to me with this. And so even having seen these UFOs, these ET crafts, I was highly, highly skeptical about the promise that we could actually send messages to and contact ETs.
Yeah,
Um, and so, how could you not be skeptical? Because everything we're told they don't, at first we're told they don't exist. So then how in the world could we contact with something that we're told doesn't exist, even if we know
yeah,
that, like, we've seen them, right? And so we tried this, and it was me, um, that friend, and another friend, and we were at this lake in Central Florida, and so we're out there. It's October 19th, 2022, and we're out there and we're trying this. And so what his information is basically you meditate to get into the proper universal frequency, basically, and then once you get there, then you can start vectoring. And so what the vectoring is, basically, like, you envision something way far out, like, let's say, for instance, the Milky Way. So basically we would start with the Milky Way, and then we would go closer in, and we would get to our solar system, and we would focus on our solar system, and then once we felt like that was in focus, then we'd go closer in and we'd, like, focus on Earth. And then once we felt like Earth was in focus, we'd go down to the US, then we'd go to Florida, then we'd, come to our location.
Yeah.
And so in the beginning, the first time we did this, we probably were out there and putting in the effort, the mental effort for probably a solid 3 hours with no success. And then, so we take a break. Um, we took a break, we went back out, and then we did it a little more. And then, so the other two took a break, but I stayed out there a couple more minutes, and I saw this craft. It almost looked like it was interdimensional. It wasn't a physical craft, but it wasn't like it was just like it was clearly there, but it was more or less like
Existing in two spaces, kind of.
kind of, yeah. So it
Yeah.
was because it clearly wasn't like this physical metal ship or anything that we're, so but it had hexagon shapes in it, and it was a um like a goldish brown color, um and it was going perfectly flat across the lake. No noise, no um emission of any kind, just going perfectly flat across the lake. And so when it was gone, I had no clue what it was. There's no way I could have had any idea, because it was like basically one hexagon just floating in the sky across. And so I told them about it, and it was interesting, and they didn't necessarily believe me at that point.
Yeah.
And so then we go in, we wait inside for like 45 minutes or so, then we go back out and we do it again. And so then this time we see another craft. So we see this, and it's the same type of thing, but instead of there being one of them, there's like 8 of them.
Oh wow.
And they're in like a single file line, like a formation. Like there's like kind of like 6 in the front and like 2 on the sides. And it looked like there were like lines of light connecting them at the vertices. And it was the same thing. It was just cruising at like 300 feet above, and I like a yard or two over from us, flat across the lake, no noise, no emissions of any kind, just going. And then it went off. And so we look at each other, we all saw this, we're like, first off, we're amazed, so we're freaking out. And then we decide to not discuss what we like exactly what we saw. So we go inside and we get note cards, and we all draw out what we saw. And we, with our own different angles of it, we drew the exact same thing.
Oh damn.
So all 3 of us saw this. And honestly, at this point, we can never know exactly what kind of ship it was, but from our elementary knowledge at the time, and not really knowing how to dig deeper into this exact um, object, it to us appeared to be more like an interdimensional thing. Like it clearly was not, um, the metal ships. That it definitely wasn't a saucer. It's not
Yeah.
like anything that you've seen in the movies about these ET
Yeah, like
ships. It was,
classic ET type
yeah,
things.
it
Yeah.
was nothing even close to that. It was so far gone from those. So it was, to me, like that was easily. First off, it was the first contact and successful contact. But even to this day, like had some really good contacts, but that's still the top.
Yeah. What did you attempt contacting after like the first couple of times you felt those conscious abductions or
No, I didn't know what to think about those.
oh, okay.
So I was young at this point. Mind you, that was like 8 years ago, before I had any knowledge of this, and I was still well ingrained in the matrix at that point. I just knew that
Okay.
that existed beyond us.
Yeah.
And so moving forward, even up until this point, I was still pretty like questioning everything, but not looking outside of the matrix at this
Okay.
point.
Yeah.
And so then we do this, and then everything, obviously the questioning starts. And shoot, I'll be frank, I did before this happened, I didn't even believe in God.
Yeah.
And then I see this, and we start looking into ETs, and turns out like they're huge proponents of God, like the creator per se.
Yeah.
Obviously not like a religious God, but just God and the overall, the creator, the oneness.
Yeah.
And so I started, believing because of that, and started doing more, becoming more of a spiritual person because of ETs, which
Yeah, that
is
makes sense.
sounds interesting to some people because it, to some teachings goes against God, I guess. But
Yeah, but there are people who have had like their near death experiences, and they talk about it's not necessarily they don't see like a type of God or anything like that. It's a type of energy that they become one with. That, as you described in those conscious abductions, is just pure joy that they felt in those moments because they were connecting with a greater sense of energy that even you said earlier with is which is like love, like universal love.
yeah, so they exactly, so they feel the love, the oneness. I mean, that's the best way to put it, I guess, is that we're all supposed to be looking within as opposed to looking outward. I mean, shoot, even the
Yeah,
Bible says that God is within us all.
yeah,
And I mean, that's straight up. That's not a. That's not a. I mean, basically, that's a literal teaching. That's
yeah,
not something that we're supposed to take and say, "Oh, well, we can be this and that." Like, no, it's literally telling us that God is within us all. Like, we have the universe within us.
yeah,
We're all one consciousness, just different pieces, different personalities of that one conscious.
yeah. Yeah, so I don't think it was weird for you to become a spiritual person after experiencing these things. Um,
Yeah, it's well, because it just opens up your mind to really what's possible. So then, because
yeah,
then it got to the point where I'm like, okay, so I can now, I've clearly shown that, well, like, we can contact ETs. Like, this is possible. We can contact telepathically. And so then it's like, okay, at this point, what else can we do?
yeah,
So then you start looking into it, and obviously there's psychics or mediums, which is obviously big in your area of expertise. Um, it kind of, it goes along the exact same realms. Like, they can speak with um the spirit realms. Mediums can, they can speak with
yeah,
ghosts and spirits and whatnot, um telepathically. I mean, it happens all the time. You ever with someone, and then all of a sudden you just know exactly what they're going to say and exactly what they're going to do and exactly how they're feeling at that moment. So
yeah,
that's basically the same exact thing. You get on the same exact frequency as them, the same vibe as them, and then you
yeah.
can communicate
In
telepathically. You
tune
don't
with
know
that
you're doing
person.
it, but
Yeah,
and then I looked into like energy healing, and I've this one blew my mind. This one really opened up my mind. Um, so the energy healing, obviously, it's just focusing your energy using your hands, because we all emit energy. We're just energy, so we emit it. And so I started looking into that, and um, honestly, one time I was on mushrooms. I will say that, but not as like a trippy thing. But it's a great way to open up the mind and
yeah,
get answers to questions. And so it obviously would strengthen these abilities. So it'll open up your pineal gland and strengthen your ability to be a medium, or your ability to telepathically communicate, or whatever. So in this case, I used it to focus on healing energy. And so I did it on myself, because I have had a shoulder injury since I was 12 years old. And so for 17 years I've been in like daily pain. Like, I've
yeah,
never had a day since I injured it, since I was 12, without pain. And that's, you know, like, everyone wakes up and they're sore from sleeping wrong or whatever, but
yeah,
this would persist and never go away. And so this was this past April of 23. I tried the energy healing. So I took both my hands, sat down, focused every single piece of energy that I had in my shoulder, for ended up doing it for like 30 minutes. And I mean, I was like intensely focused,
yeah,
and you could feel the energy drain from every other part of your body and go into this part that has the pain that you're focusing it to go into. and so this part becomes full of energy, and the rest of you lacks, like, loses all of its energy. And at that moment, I literally could not move my legs or my arms. I was sitting up as I was doing it. I had to lay down for 30 minutes before I could gain back my energy and the rest of my body when I did this. And since April, I have not had, other than, like, sore from working out or soreness from, like, in the beginning of the mornings when you wake up or something.
Yeah.
I have not had any pain in my shoulder since April. And I had
No
consistent
more of that
daily pain
constant
for
pain.
17
Yeah.
years. And so that is also another day that opened my eyes to, like, man, if we can do that, like, if this is possible, that's crazy. That's wild that this is even in the realm of possibilities. What else can we actually do that they're telling us we can't do?
Yeah, I always, even when it comes to like the paranormal, when it comes to ghosts and things like that, one thing I've always told people when it came down to an unwanted spirit or whatever inside of their home, I always told them like we're both like these spiritual kind of energy beings and a physical being. You know, like we kind of got the best of both worlds right now. You know, like so I tell them, I go, you uh, at some point, if it's with the spirit, you have more power than the spirit. You can just tell this thing to leave. You know, you can communicate it with it whenever you like because you do have that energy within you already.
But then, but how do it's the separation, I guess, because, like, you know, people like us, we understand that.
Yeah,
But then a lot of people, they don't see it as such. They don't realize that, like, you are both. They sometimes will think, oh, you're either physical or then your spirit once you pass on. Not
yeah,
that we can be both at the same time. And, like you're saying, basically, essentially separate the physical and the spiritual to communicate with the spiritual to assist your physical.
yeah, yeah. The same way that you'll meditate for your healing. You know how to to concentrate the energy and things like that. You can use the energy within you, the frequency within you to do, I think, lots of things. So like you said, when you meditated to try to contact ETs, you know, that's another way to use the mind, the energy within you.
And that see that was interesting too, though, because the first time, because I mean, obviously, we don't use our minds like we think we do, and then the one time we do like that, trying to do it for 3 hours, like, it was complete exhaustion the entire next week.
Yeah,
Like, I had no, like, my mental energy was gone. I was just physically exhausted because of exerting so much, you know, mental um mental energy trying to, send out these messages. And it so then, like, even though as much as we wanted to do it again, because obviously we're super hyped because we had just done this,
yeah.
like, absolutely could not muster up the energy to do it again.
Now, after you've like communicated or communicated in the sense of meditating to make contact with them, did you have any of those conscious abductions again? And did any at any point these two things that you were doing cross paths?
Um, so no more conscious abductions.
Okay.
Um, that is honestly still always a mystery to me. First off, why it happened and
Yeah.
why it happened multiple times, and then who did it. Like, it's the whole situation is still a mystery to me. Um, but with the communication, so we have seen the physical crafts. We've seen tons of them now. We've done it since that date, and I mean, my friend and I, um, individually. So each of us has probably seen, and I might even be lowballing it, 250 plus UFOs in the past year.
Damn.
I mean, it's So we've seen that, and then we've tried to. He's had more success with me with like actually having like hearing a message from them, like
Okay.
receiving an actual um download, I guess, an actual like message back from them. He's had experience with that. So I haven't had that yet. Or if I have, I haven't been able to, I guess, distinguish it from one of my thoughts.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean that's hard to do. Like, how do you understand someone talking to you through your mind? That's not you, not your inner
Yeah, yeah.
thoughts.
To
Um,
differentiate the fact of, oh wait, that one's not mine. This thing that came into my head isn't mine.
yeah, exactly. So how do you do that? I mean, obviously he's been able to do it. So he actually, one of his messages he sent out, it said something like he almost compared them to, no, I'm not going to get this exactly right, but in a sense he like compared them to God, or like said thank you for doing so and so. And he said they sent a message and they were upset that he was comparing them to the creator.
Okay.
And so that moment is actually when I started believing in God,
Yeah.
because they sent that and said to him that.
Yeah,
And
like they were like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, we're not the creator." Like,
exactly, yeah. So
yeah.
they're like, no, no, that's not us. Don't look at us in that light. Like, no, we are not him or her or whatever. We're not it.
Yeah.
So he's had those experiences. I've had more. Like for instance, one time I hadn't seen him in a bit. Um, and so I go out and I send out a message saying, hey, it's been a while. So after a while, these messages, you don't have to do it for so long. You get stronger. It's like working out. It's like a muscle. So the more you do it,
Yeah.
the quicker it can become. And so we went from 3 hours to now, we can do it in 3 minutes sometimes. Um, but so this one, I hadn't seen him in a couple weeks, and I was like, in a going through something, and I said, look, I really need you right now. Like I'm in this place. I don't know if you can still feel my energy. I know you used to be able to. I know I can feel yours. Like my hands will start tingling when they're in the area. And I said, can you show me something? If you can feel my energy, can you show me that you can feel my energy? And within like 3 minutes, there was a blue and white streak going through the sky directly above my location.
Wow.
And this has happened before. I mean, there've been so there's multiple different like ET crafts that we'll see, UFOs we'll see. So there are some that, and we have our own names for them. Like obviously, I'm sure
Okay.
there's other people who have different names for them. So we have our names. So we have there's flyers, which are basically like you see a star moving in the sky, um, but like almost looks like it'd be a plane, I guess, which is what a lot of people think it is when we try to show them. So it's moving up there, but it's not always moving in a straight path. It'll sometimes be like jagged, or
Yeah.
the light will like go in and out, but not in a flashing, but it'll be like bright and then it'll fade out for a while and then it'll come back a little bit, but it'll like even sometimes get brighter the farther it goes away.
Yeah.
And so that'll be a flyer, basically just like a star, flying in the sky. And then we'll have what we call the streaks, which is basically looks like just a marker being drawn across the sky. So we've seen white ones, we've seen blue and white ones, we've seen white ones with green tails, we've seen white ones with blue tails. A lot of times they are white, or white is in them. We've seen green streaks. So we'll see those. So streaks are another big one. There's flashers. So basically, it's like the old timey camera with the huge bulb,
Okay.
and so so they'll be in the sky, and it'll be like a big booming flash, and we'll see that. And then sometimes, if you have like a military laser pointer, like this is works really well because then you can show it up there, like, yeah, we saw you, because the light will travel to them, and then they'll flash again, and then sometimes we'll get one flash, sometimes we'll get two. We've gotten six flashes before from the same um, location within like a 30-second span.
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah,
S-
I've seen things with the military pointer. I know there's a guy in Big Bear, California, where a lot of his a lot of his content and contact comes from him just shining the laser pointer into the sky, and then you can see them going towards the light and flashing
yes. So
in the
yeah, the
area.
laser pointer is a huge. So we didn't do it for the longest time, and then one of our friends that we were doing it with had a couple of them actually, and so we were doing them. That was the first time I'd ever been a part of a session with the laser pointers. Um, and so we've also seen some that have the same color, the same as the first encounter, the like the goldish brown, bronze type color, the light bronze.
Yeah.
Um, and it'll be like a small streak across the sky, but it'll look like sparklers are coming off the back.
Oh wow.
So that's been another one. We've also seen one that has been more defined. So like I guess the game Star Fox or something like that, like basically that type of ship, but
Yeah.
it's encased in orange, like in an orange. Um, I guess for lack of a better description, I'll say flames. It had like orange flames around it, but you could see the actual like wings of the ship, the four wings of the ship as it's going through the
Yeah.
sky. And that one actually, my friend was able to catch one of those on video.
Oh damn, really?
Yeah, so he was able to catch one of those on video. He has another one. So my phone sucks. I'm never able to take videos because I have like a iPhone SE, absolutely terrible camera. Um, and so he's got that. He has one from the daylight. He sent out a message and he says, "Hey, can you come by?" Um, and this was after we had been doing it for like 6 7 months. And he sends out a message and he's like, "Hey, can you come by and you know stay long enough for me to take a picture so I can show my dad because he's the only one that I really care about like believing me." And
Yeah.
so they stay and he gets a live photo of him, and you can see it in the photo, it's there, and then you hold the live photo, you play it, and it's just then it shoots up.
Oh damn, that's dope.
And so yeah, so they have those. Um and so yeah, that's been crazy. I've actually seen, I don't know if this is actually the exactly what it was, but this is the only way I can describe it, is three mothership offloads. And so the only way I know how to describe this, and because I've looked up to make sure they were not the satellites. So the
Yeah.
first time I saw this, it looked like there were. So I saw what I thought, because it was like a semi foggy night, and I saw like a flyer go by, and then maybe a second later I saw another one right behind it, and then same time another one, another one, another one. I counted, and I stopped counting after a while because they just kept coming. I counted 22.
Damn.
And I'm like, okay, this is right when like the Elon Musk satellites were being shot off all the time. And
Oh, there's
so
Starlink or whatever it's
Starlink,
called.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I looked up the schedule for all the flights around the entire world for satellites, everything, and there was nothing scheduled for like that day or the day before or the day after. I'm pretty sure. So like I'm like, okay, interesting. And then so I was always curious. And then 2 weeks later, I just happened to send out a message, and it said, "Hey, a couple weeks ago, I saw this. Was it satellites? Was it y'all? Um, I think it was like a mothership offload, or basically, I'm sending all this stuff, like what I
Yeah.
think it was, what it could be, with this and that, asking questions." And then, um, shortly after, there's an opening. So I was in my backyard. There was an opening above the roof of my house, and then I start seeing this single file line of uh, like black and green ships, like a black ship with like a green outline.
Okay.
And so there was same thing. There was like between 20 and 30 of them in a single file line directly in the sky, and I could fully see them. I tried to take a photo of them or a video of them, but my phone, of course, like terrible. I
Yeah.
think I have like a 10-second video where it shows just black sky. But so it had this, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. because I thought it was like still at that point wasn't sure. And then I looked back to where they came from, and I saw one of them like flash me,
Okay.
as if to say like, yes, it was definitely us. It wasn't satellites. Like
Yeah.
it is what you thought it was, or what you hoped it was, rather.
Yeah.
Um, and then we had another one which was similar to the first one, but it was just they were so much brighter and just going off, and it was those are always interesting. Those might be my favorite just because it's so many and it's so like fast paced and rapid, and it's just
Yeah.
crazier than like the other ones like clearly much bigger and cooler, but those are just the craziest sightings.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the fact that you, even though I think the Starlink or whatever it's called is there's a certain number that you see in a line going through the sky, and your experience already was, I think, probably double the number of lights you would see like in the
Oh
line.
yeah.
Plus, but still, you were like, I'm gonna look it up just to make sure.
I looked it up all 3 times, and all 3
Yeah,
times there was no launches on in the entire world.
yeah. Like in the sense of like it wasn't just straight to the point. You were like, oh, this is them. There's no way it's the satellite, but you double checked to make sure, and then even sent a message out.
Well,
Which,
you gotta verify this stuff. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
so like I look at it as in this terms of Buddha, he says always look into stuff, always experience things for yourself, never believe someone when they tell you something. He says even if I say it, don't believe it unless you experience it yourself. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's basically what he says. So in that regard, I'm thinking like, okay, yes, I've seen it, but I know that this has happened because I know people who have seen the Starlinks and thought they were UFOs.
Yep,
And in fact, my friend who I've done all this with saw the Starlinks and thought they were UFOs. So we looked. So since and obviously, he ended up looking it up and finding out that it was Starlink.
yeah,
But so because of that, well, I mean, if that hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't have looked it up. But because of that, I've looked up. I had to look it up because I mean, what are we if we're not always trying to learn and actually verify? Then we're just
yeah,
victims to clickbait.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And has every no, no, not every, but like every time you have an experience like this, or you make contact, or you send a message out, are you building? Do you have like a relationship with
Um,
certain ones that you've talked to throughout all this time that you've been doing it?
y- in it, yes, because we have come to find out that we've had more contact with so different some races actually can't, or it's very difficult for them to come down to the third dimension.
Okay.
So like the Arcturians are a very very highly advanced um race. So it's very difficult for them to come down to the third dimension, but they're very closely tied together with the Pleiadians. And the Pleiadians can exist in the third dimension fairly
Yeah.
pretty easily. So most of what we see are Pleiadians, and we know this because a lot of it is. Um, so we've done a couple channeling experiences, and so based on the energy that we project from these channeling experiences, um, it's like they said that I project a Pleiadian energy, which would make sense that I would contact more Pleiadians because
Yeah.
it's ingrained in me. My friend projected more of an Arcturian um, energy, but since they're directly connected with the Pleiadians, like he would be able to connect more with the Pleiadians. And now some ships we've seen are U-shaped, and there are a race that is U-shaped. I think it's the Lyrians. Not, I'm not sure. I believe the U-shaped ship is the the race of feline humanoids.
Okay.
And yes, I know this all sounds crazy. It's
No,
a
no, no,
wild. It's always
I'm
wild.
taking it.
Um, so we've seen those. We have seen a bunch of different races, but for the most part, we're seeing Pleiadians. But for us, maybe it's maybe it's just us, you know, being biased to the situation, but we feel
Yeah.
like it just always seems like they're for some reason like protecting us. Not like we're special or anything in a sense, but just
Yeah.
like
Like the
protecting
way you would protect like a
us.
friend or something like that, right?
Right, right. Like
Yeah.
yeah, like we've created that, like they just happen to be around, or like in a sense because of all the communication, it just seems like it feels like every time we need them, like something's going on in our life and we try to contact them to, get that sense of something bigger so we're not, sucked into the everyday nonsense.
Yeah.
It seems like every single time, like we actually like we need to see them to remind ourselves what we're really out here for, they show up.
Hmm. When when you said you had like a Pleiadian like type of energy about you, and that's why you're able to like contact them like more so than others. Uh, you don't think that has anything to do with like the conscious abductions early on before
I think it
any of
very
this?
much does. I don't think
Have you asked them that before or
I have, but I don't think, because remember we're still very um essentially we're toddlers in this
yeah.
scope of, telepathic communication and whatnot. So I've tried, but I don't think I'm ready yet to start receiving and having actual communications back and forth, or getting to that level of understanding. I don't think I've
Yeah.
learned enough or evolved enough in the realm of telepathy, but I believe it definitely 100% helps communicating with them, and I would say probably that it was Pleiadians that would do that. And I don't think anything's by chance. And like once again, not to say I'm special or anything, but
Yeah.
I think that there was a reason, some reason, not I have no clue what the reason would be, that they would abduct me, or they would abduct you, or they would abduct, you know, Johnny up in New York City or whoever.
Yeah.
Like
It's not like
there's
they're putting their finger over a map and just going, this person or
no,
whatever,
they've,
you know?
I believe for whatever the reason may be, no clue, um, that they are calculated abductions. They are very intelligent beings. They can travel light years. Um, they are not doing things by chance.
Yeah, it's not it doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like they're just if they're that advanced, they're like, let's just go there and see what happens. You know?
Exactly. They're
Yeah.
they're trying to help us evolve. So there are so in the um I guess the circles that I'm involved in, they talk about the and a lot of this is talked about on Gaia, the Gaia network.
Yeah.
Um they talk about the Galactic Federation. And so Earth is not in the Galactic Federation because we're not to that level yet. We're not we don't have a high enough level of awareness, or um I guess love, I guess, is basically we don't love enough to be up there. We're not evolved enough. We're not
Yeah.
spiritually evolved enough to be in the Galactic Federation. Um
We're still more in that self-centered kind of
yes, exactly.
yeah.
Um so honestly, I forgot what my point was. But yeah, so
uh,
we're not in the Galactic Federation yet.
okay. So it seems like they're just like just training, I guess, in a way, like to help us just work, like we said, like that muscle,
Yes,
work that
yes. Okay,
muscle.
yes, that's what it was. Yeah, so they're trying to help us get to that point, but they're not actually, universal law states they're not really allowed to interfere with us.
Yeah.
So they will help us if they will come if, like, if we can get on their level, they'll come if we call. Like the good ones, the good ETs, they come if we call them, but they don't typically come unless we like send out that energy or send out that message. They need the invitation. They're like vampires. They need the
Yeah.
invitation.
Yes, come in.
Yeah, so you invite them in. So now I'm to the point like when I send out a message, I always send out my name, I send out my address, I send out my phone number, I send out all my information.
Yeah.
Like I'm opening up my entire self for them, to come in, make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Um, and I always say I love you in every message I send. I say I'll always end every message with thank you, I love you, Hare Krishna, and Namaste.
Okay. Yeah, like yeah, because there are even people here who, when they talk to family, they don't end the phone call with like, "And I love you," you know.
You know what? Honestly, I
Every-
don't even do it all the time.
but I mean, like, in this sense, you're providing an openness within you for them to also be open.
Correct.
Yeah,
If they feel the love, they'll give the love.
yeah. I'm picking up what you're laying down. I got
Yeah.
it.
But no, I saw
but
some of your other videos on TikTok where you talked about possibly man-made UFOs
oh
um
yeah,
um that are coming, and that is from according to Dr. Stephen Greer, which he's the expert. He's like the king of, UFO communication. So, and he could like I'm obviously not the first one to do this. I'll definitely not be the last, and I'm
yeah,
not the best. Like he's the man. And he has stated that along with the senator from Hawaii, Senator Anawai, I believe from Hawaii in the 80s, stated that the Earth. I won't necessarily go into the details of who, but the Earth has technology that can rival that of Star Trek.
I believe that. Yeah,
That is obvious. That's not out to the public. But what they also do, and you will see this in some of those, like you're talking about disclosure stuff. These are more
yeah,
whistleblowers on Stephen Greer's panel, and they talk about these man-made crafts that can that'll go thousands of miles an hour without creating a sonic boom or creating anything, any emission, anything.
yeah,
And these military guys have seen it. They've witnessed it, and so a lot of these, also what you brought up, like these things being shot down, are not actual UFOs being shot down. They are man-made to create that false flag attack, that fear that, oh, we're being attacked. It's a war of the worlds. We need you to trust in us and stand by us as we go and fight the enemy. When in
yeah,
fact, Earth is the enemy. Like we are the enemy. We are more hostile than the ETs. If they're being shot down, right? They can travel, and this has always made it like how can you believe that they're attacking us
yeah,
if they're being shot down so easily, right? And they're verified, I believe, as of like September, whenever Dr. Greer did his one of his disclosures, there were 122 verified shot down and recovered UFOs in the past 80 years. So if they've shot down 122, if they've been shot down 122 times, and they can travel light years in relative instances, why? And if they're hostile, why would they not attack back?
yeah,
They could obliterate us almost instantaneously if they wanted to. And why would they not attack us back if we're shooting them down constantly? If they're hostile, why
yeah.
would they? I mean, if they can attack, there's no way. Like we
How
have
would how would
scalar
you
weapons.
be able to shoot something down that can move, in the blink of an eye? If they're saying
So
it can move that fast, how are our weapons able to just shoot something down
well,
that
so according to
advanced?
Dr. Greer, the weapons that rival Star Trek, we have scalar weapons that can shoot beams that go about 2 times the speed of light.
Almost like the Tesla death ray type deal. Um, just this ray of light that can just be shot with the precision and power, and
Exactly.
yeah. And I
So
know there
it's
was blueprints for that already, so
yes. So we have that technology. We've used that technology, but if they bring an entire fleet of ships and they were hostile, how could we
yeah,
defend ourselves against an entire fleet if they really wanted to attack us? It would be in all. I mean, if you look at every movie, it's like they come down and then they just fight us in hand to hand combat, and all of a sudden it's hand to hand combat, and our machine guns are taking out these aliens with
yeah,
their blasters that constantly miss us and this and that and all, and it's desensitizing us to these to an alien attack, but it's also making us like fear them. There's nothing to fear. If they wanted to attack us and kill us all, they would have done it already.
yeah, yeah. Especially if they're that advanced, like so much more advanced than we are.
Correct.
I think at some point we would, if it was really that much of a threat, we wouldn't even see it coming.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
It would be like the sun burning out, which would kill us all in 8 minutes because it's
yeah.
8 light minutes away.
Yeah, see, I find it like the whole this whole conversation itself is interesting because I don't really get to do this type of conversation a lot. Um, so as you're telling me things, I'm just like, yeah, makes sense. This makes sense. And every time when you're saying, I know it sounds crazy, I'm like, no, man, I'm just taking it in. I'm listening.
It's a, I guess it's a self-preservation thing to
Yeah,
say. I know it sounds crazy because, like, first off, I do know it sounds crazy,
yeah,
and secondly, like, I know obviously, you're, you do paranormal stuff, so it's basically in the same realm of
yeah,
existence.
yeah.
And
The whole thing sounds crazy. Every aspect of something that is not um fully within our knowledge or in our realm or whatever is going to sound crazy in general. But when you have people who like you who have had experiences like you do, and then you're not the only person who has had this type of experience or have made contact or can send messages out and have those messages be received and answered, you know, like it puts more weight to you to what you've experienced because again, you're not the only one. There are more people here in the world who have experienced it as well, which puts lets people know that it's not crazy.
and that's so I've kind of come to realize that it's a lot of what I do, and I mean honestly what you do too, is that people will only believe what we're telling them from a, I guess, like a fly on the wall perspective,
Yeah,
or like a surface perspective, I guess, like tip of the iceberg. Okay, you're like, all right, that sounds interesting, but then until they experience it themselves and actually see it or feel it or do it, then they'll never fully believe, which makes tons of sense because even like I said, even having seen the UFOs, I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd ever be able to communicate with them or contact them or whatever.
yeah. I mean, it probably
So
wasn't your initial thought after seeing a UFO. You know, you didn't think
I
like,
didn't
I am
think
gonna meditate and contact this thing.
I never in my wildest dreams would have ever thought that was possible. As much as I wanted, I've wanted to go like off world, go to different planets
Yeah,
forever, and I know that is possible because there's a lot that they're not telling us, right? Um, so I know it is possible to go off planet because if there's, according to Gaia, and honestly, according to, um, I believe the Bhagavad Gita or like the Vedas, I think it's the Vedas. There's 400,000 civilizations out there, advanced civilizations out there that are some like Earth, some less than Earth, some far superior to Earth, right?
yeah,
So there's like that alone shows us like we can go off world if we just know the proper ways to do it.
yeah.
and so I've
No,
always had that
exactly.
dream, but I guess never in my wildest thoughts ever imagined it could be possible.
Yeah, I think even after like my experiences, I never like it was even to a point where I didn't talk about it. It's one of the crazier experiences that I've had in my life to where it still kind of baffles my brain on what these things could have been at the time I experienced them. Um, but yeah, it's just I was just like, no part in my head was like, all right, I'm gonna meditate and contact. You know,
You see, yeah, from that aspect, you're right. It does sound super crazy though. Like man, we never thought we'd ever do it, and now all of a sudden we're
yeah.
having a
There's
full
there's
on
full
discussion
on
about it.
yeah full on discussions. There's down where I guess near where I had my experiences too, near Joshua Tree, they have a whole event where they contact
Oh yes, they have a
ETs.
yearly event. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, they
and I
love the
always thought that
desert
was it.
because there's no so when there's a so like if you, like big cities, right? There's never like very rarely are there instances of UFO sightings in like major cities or like in
Yeah.
this downtown of major cities because they're so congested. You can't really pinpoint a frequency. Like it's all first off, those cities are made to lock us in and imprison us. They're not actually made for us to thrive as humans as much as they want to
No.
portray that.
No, it
Well,
puts you
how
in
humans
a
are actually supposed to be.
yeah, it puts you in more of I don't know, a stressed out kind of
Exactly.
state constantly. So your energy definitely not going to be good
So,
in
well,
like
it's
a
actually
major
funny
city.
that so the people who live in the big city are much more likely to believe in this stuff and like try to do it and like say the for lack of better words like the
Yeah,
hippies and whatnot, but they are incapable of it to a certain extent be, because
that was weird. I don't know what that was.
I have no clue. Yeah, so they're incapable of it because they're trapped in this cement city. They can't actually get their thoughts. There's no nature around them.
Yeah.
But then the people who live in the parts where they are fully capable of doing this because they have the free space, the open skies, the nature, they're not trapped in, they're free. They don't believe in that stuff. They're more like super conservative.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. The people who need to live in the country live in the city. The people who need to live not necessarily in the city, but like aren't going to fully utilize the country as it should be. Like it's so that it kind of it's baffling.
Yeah, well, I think no, I, I don't think it was baffling just in a sense because in the city I think people deep down they want to break free from
Mm,
that city life, which is just waking up, going to work, being stuck in traffic, and then finishing work, coming home, being stuck in traffic, only for you to repeat that cycle over and over and over. And of course, they're going to be more willing to believe things that are going to take them away from that, that is going to show them there's more than just this kind of dull life that they're living.
it's a very good point.
So I think it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, it does make sense. Has there been any other so you've like you I think you stated earlier, there's been no negative
No, not a
experiences.
single one. Not a
Yeah,
single
so
negative experience. Um it's always very very positive and uplifting. And like I said, even when I don't see them, but I know they're around because like I start feeling a tingle in my hands.
yeah.
Like it's just it's a sensation I guess in my hands like I know they're around. That's when the joy starts coming. And
Yeah.
like
Is
it
it like
just
an instant comfort?
comfort. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's a really good way to put it is just comfort.
Okay. Yeah, that's super interesting. See, I've never experienced that. I've only had my two and that was it. But I didn't go down a route that you went down. Um I stayed away from things for a long time and then only just a couple years ago when I started doing this was I more, going down the rabbit holes of every possible type of
Man, the
with
rabbit
this thing.
holes, they're deep.
Yeah, every single one of them, and you'll find
Uh,
another rabbit hole down the rabbit hole you just went down to. So
that's honestly why it's, a lot of times s I try not to go down these rabbit holes too often. Sometimes I just have to take a break from it all and just,
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess,
I definitely
be
do the same
human,
thing.
I guess, because it's like, it can just it's exhausting, like, sometimes it's just depressing, seeing, like, what we could be and what we could be doing or what we should be doing, and then all of a sudden we're stuck in this. It's like with everything out there, we could be thriving with, these other planets, these other races, like trading with them intergalactically, interstellar, basically. We could be
Yeah,
trading with them and doing all this stuff, and yet the people who are in charge are entrapping us to Earth and making and like basically, yeah, I don't want to say slaves because obviously we're not. We're getting paid. We're doing all that, but
yeah,
prison. We're imprisoned essentially in this life that we are not supposed to be living.
yeah. No, I believe that too. I think it's in a. I mean, it is kind of like just tricking you into like, if you want money, you got to do this. You know.
Tricking is
Kinda-
a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, see that's what I'm saying about the money though. Is like why is it so important to have money on Earth and like for them to take control of this planet when they could just they themselves, whoever's in charge, whoever's the trillionaires and whatnot, they would also be able to expand throughout the galaxy.
Yeah.
Like it that kind of
I
frustrates
think.
me and confuses me because like why be stuck to one planet when we can in essence we should be
Well, because
experiencing all of them.
they're thriving
Yeah.
on what they're doing now. You know.
Yeah, that's true. If you can, I mean, we do have a very beautiful planet. So if you can thrive,
Yeah.
I guess, and do whatever you want, then I suppose why go elsewhere?
Yeah. And going back to your point of like having to take a break sometimes with things, I think sometimes that helps answer. Sometimes taking a break helps answer a question we had, like when we're feeling overwhelmed by everything, like the rabbit holes and more information all the time. You feel overwhelmed, so it's nice to take a step back. Helps you kind of reevaluate and slow your mind down, because sometimes this type of life can like make your mind race just as crazy as like a city
Oh yeah,
lifestyle will.
it's those
So
of course moments.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. It happens
always
all
it's
the
always
time.
oh of
Yeah,
course,
the answer was right there the whole time.
and
I drove myself
it's
crazy for
so
no reason.
simple. It's like it's fun. So yeah, so the answer being right there. So my friend and I, we've so we use a lot of our own terms, I guess. So like downloads, like something like that. Like all of a
Yeah,
sudden finding the answer, you're like, oh, we just got to download, or something like I get like just out of nowhere, something we never even thought of. Like not we're not searching for anything. It's just a thought that there's no way in heck we could have ever thought about this,
yeah.
and it's in our head and it makes a ton of sense. So we're like, okay, we just got to download from either one of ourselves or like from ourselves from a different universe, multiverse,
Yeah.
or or our spirit guide or something like that. Like we just got information from it. So like we call those downloads. So it sounds like you've had a few yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, and I'm just not paying attention to any of it. I'm focusing on too many things at one time.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
super easy to do. I love starting something and then going really hard at it for like a week and then being like, "Oh my gosh, I got another idea." And then just
Yeah.
forgetting the first one and going super deep into that one
Never ending. Just
and then
keep
all of a
going, going, going,
sudden
going, going, going. Yeah.
nothing ever gets done.
So was there anything else you would like to like share? Any experiences that you think people would find interesting? Um, or maybe
On
just a
it,
message you would want to end on?
honestly, I think since I never thought this was possible and obviously it is, I would just say genuinely try anything that, like, just do the research and look up things that maybe you think are interesting or that
Yeah,
you never thought possible, or okay, you've this has happened to you, you're interested in it, look it up and maybe you can find something deeper and have a deeper connection to it. Like just seeing the UFOs, okay, I'm interested in it, but I never did the research
yeah,
until all of a sudden it was basically dropped in my lap and now I'm like like zipping in it.
yeah,
And so it's interesting, and honestly, I don't it's anybody can contact the ETs. I would suggest everyone should try it. I would look up Dr. Stephen Greer. I will talk about him forever. That guy is he's doing some good things. He's doing some really good things.
yeah. Well, I mean, his name came up a lot during these disclosure discussions. So more people have gotten to see his name pop up, and then have you know they can look him up at any point. They can see his work, listen to him talk, anything. Um,
So he actually leads a lot of these big time sessions like the one I'm not sure if he leads the one in Joshua Tree, but he leads a lot of these huge session ET contact sessions.
yeah, yeah. I think I know a few people who actually attend them.
Yeah, I've
So
never had the chance to go, but I'm very anxious. It's just timing's never worked
yeah,
out, unfortunately. But oh boy, how sweet it would be.
yeah. I think somewhere down the line I'll have to do the same thing. Like go and see it. Maybe near where I've had my experiences. Maybe something.
Oh, if you went out there, I bet you would do very well out there. First off, you've already seen them there, so
Yeah,
the energy is there. You know it can work out there. And secondly, it's wide freaking open. So they're
yeah.
very.
I just
I
hope
mean,
it's not going to be like that negative feeling that I had that one time. So
if you did end up calling them, it would probably 100% be positive
okay, dope.
because they if you invite them, the good ones come when you invite them
Yeah,
and you say like, "Oh, hey, come on as close as you are comfortable." And
all
sometimes they'll
right.
come super super close. I mean, we've had them. I mean, 100 yards above us.
Well,
Sometimes,
I would even say the tingling in your feeling is like right there. Yeah,
yeah. So that's that is to me that's still like crazy to me that I can like literally feel them when they're close. And then
yeah,
sometimes I end up seeing them, sometimes I don't, but I can always feel them. Like I know they're around me when I feel them. And sometimes when I feel it, I'll see different stars twinkle, and I know that is something that they do, or that they're able
yeah,
to do. Like it's how I have no clue. I don't know,
yeah. But just deep down, you know. I
but
mean,
I know, and
like you
I've
said, you've built a relationship to the point where it's like you know certain things, the same way you know a person. It's the
it's just a
I think
soul.
it's
We're all
yeah,
we're all just souls floating in these meat bodies.
yeah, yeah. That's a good way to end it with like we're all just souls in these meat bodies, and then like also open your mind, man.
That's
Open
it.
your mind.
Open your mind. Question
Yeah,
everything. Don't believe
yeah,
anything. Don't watch the news.
yeah. Oh, I always say
Don't
that. Yeah,
believe the news. Let me tell you. Don't believe the news.
yeah. That's what I have as my tagline. Is like ask questions, face your fears.
There you
Like
go. Always ask questions. Question everything.
yeah. And you
I was a,
don't
I
you
was
don't
a teacher
necessarily
for
always have to be
3 years.
afraid.
Yeah, I was a teacher for 3 years, so I'm all about questions. I love questions.
Yeah. Well, if you want, you can let everybody know where they can find you. I don't know if it's just TikTok or you've expanded.
Let's see. I am on Instagram. Honestly, I don't post there. Midnight in the Multiverse.
Okay. I think I
Um,
did follow you, and I
yeah.
don't think there was anything there. But
My podcast is Midnight in the Multiverse on Spotify, I believe right now is the only location. And
okay.
then TikTok, MIT Multiverse. So content will be coming soon. Just gotta, you know, ain't nothing to it but to do it, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's what I said to myself for like a year before I even started this show. So I get I get the point in your life that you're at right now. I get it.
Yeah, it's a lot. Well, I'm also in grad school,
Okay, so yeah.
so I got a lot going on.
Yeah.
I got a lot going on.
But yeah, I'll make sure to like put the links and stuff like that in here. I want to say I appreciate you coming on, like sharing your stories.
I
Um,
appreciate you having me. It's been fun. I love talking about ETs and the you know whatever you want to call it,
yeah,
extraordinary
yeah, and like I said,
occurrences.
I don't get to talk about it a lot, so this was definitely like a super dope conversation, and have you on was killer, man. So hell
I
yeah.
appreciate that.
And to everybody watching, listening, whatever you're doing, if you're on YouTube, um, like, comment, share, subscribe, the whole thing you do on YouTube. Hit the stupid bell. Um, if you have any of your own experiences, if listening to him tell his story and share his experiences inspired you to feel comfortable to share yours, you can email me at inducedfearpod@gmail.com. Follow all the socials at Induced Fear, Induced Fear Podcast. It's the same name everywhere. And like we said earlier, don't forget to ask questions and face your fears. Thanks for joining me and Skeezy on this episode of Induced Fear. Bye,
Love
guys.
and peace, baby.